It's baseball here this afternoon. Game number 3, the Miami Marlins and the St. Louis Cardinals. Well, the Cardinals have lost the first 2 in this series, and yet they're only 3.5 games out. You know, you start taking a look at what's happening with a team that wins a bunch, loses a bunch, couple in a row. In this case for the Cardinals, and where they're at, they're only 3.5 games out in the Central.
Another example, Dan, of how up and down a baseball season is. It's just the emotions. There's all kinds of emotions. Obviously, here at the ballpark yesterday, the Cardinals, for the first time this year, gave up more than 10 runs in a game. So it was a tough game from the Cardinals' point of view, but we start over again today, and it depends on when you take the snapshot on how well your team is doing. Hopefully the snapshot a week from now will be better.
You really got to like the Cardinals' chances here today. You say that because you have Miles Mikolas going, could be an all-star this season, has been one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. And on the flip side, for the Marlins, they've got Trevor Richards, who is in independent baseball a couple years ago.
A local kid, actually grew up in Breeze, Illinois. He went to Mater Dei High School there, played independent ball. Did Richards. Now he's in the big leagues. But Mikolas, well, his journey's a little bit different. 3 years in Japan. One of the best pitchers in Japan. The Cardinals and many teams were trying to sign Mikolas, and you know, one of the best signings this winter, I would say, for any team was the Cardinals winning out on the Derby to get this guy, because he's been terrific. Start number 12, overall record of 6-1.
So the season numbers for Miles Mikolas, the Cardinal right-hander, here today. It's a gorgeous afternoon here in St. Louis. The Marlins lineup has been red hot. Starlin Castro, Derek Dietrich, and Justin Bohr, followed by the cleanup man Brian Anderson, JT Riddle, Lewis Brinson, Yadiel Rivera, Brian Holiday, the catcher, and the pitcher Trevor Richards. You think about the Marlins, they came into this series. They had gone to San Diego and Arizona before coming to the Gateway City. They did not do much out west. The 7 games before Busch Stadium, they averaged just 3 runs a game. 21 runs in all those games in the road trip. The 2 games here against the Cardinals, 18 runs they've scored in the first 2.
And they've done it with power. Our Kubota power stats include not only the 18 runs, but how about the extra base hits? 13 of them, including 5 home runs. And this is a team that's young, inexperienced in some ways, but they've got some bats in the lineup, including Brian Anderson in the cleanup spot. He has impressed me. Everybody talks about Lewis Brinson. I get it. But Brian Anderson has the highest batting average for a rookie in the National League. Don Mattingly's young players starting to come around a bit.
The last 2 games, the Cardinals starting pitchers have faced 44 batters. The relievers 49. That's not a good formula. So the Cardinals hoping that Mikolas not only can pick up a win, but go deep in this game. He's a strike thrower, and there's strike 1.
We say this every time Mikolas pitches, but we have seen teams swing at the first pitch against him a lot. They know he's going to be in the zone 70% of the time, so why not see if you can handle that first pitch fastball.
And it's 0-2. The breaking ball there to Castro. Remember when he first came up, very susceptible to that breaking pitch,
sure
middle
was.
Outer half.
Sure was.
And it's popped up to the right side. Coming in, Dexter Fowler, and he makes the catch for out number 1. The Cardinals defense around the horn is presented by Dobbs. Ozuna, the former Marlin, in left. Pham in center. Dexter Fowler in right. Carpenter, Munoz, Wong, and Martinez on the infield, and Pena is behind the plate.
Defense has been a story in this series. Cardinals have not played well defensively. They've given up a few errors, which has led to some longer innings for those starters and some earlier exits for those starters.
The residual effects of errors. More pitches thrown. You go into a bullpen, and the Cardinals had to do that a bunch the last couple of games. Derek Dietrich had a home run last night in the hole here. 0-2. Greg Garcia back as his wife gave birth. I'm sure some sleepless nights along the way. Welcome to fatherhood. Here's a 1-2 pitch in on his hands, and it's hit out of play.
Great moments ahead.
You bet.
And a little sleep.
All worth it, though.
Corresponding move that Cardinals sent out Preston Guillemette, who appeared in a couple of games here, struggled, and he had been, Dan, the closer in AAA. So it's not like he didn't deserve that promotion, just didn't work out, at least this time.
And a ground ball hit to Colton Wong, and there's 2 away. The batter will be Justin Bour. Well, for the Cardinals, it's just a brief road trip, 3 games in Cincinnati. We'll leave tonight after the ball game here this afternoon. 3 with the Reds upcoming. Back at home, San Diego will be here, and the Chicago Cubs. And the first pitch, a cutter swung on and missed. Bour is 1 for his last 11 and 1 for 8 in the series. You think about the offense, if you would have said before the 2 games all the runs scored, you'd point to Justin Bour more than likely, but he's been quiet.
He just looks imposing at the plate, doesn't he?
Big guy, big power. Here's a 1-1 pitch. 2 strikes. And the 1-2. We talk about it all the time, the ability of a starter to go deep. And when the Cardinals cannot get their starter through 5, no surprise, their record is well below 500. And the 2-2 pitch hit out of play.
You know, it's one of the almost one of the casualties of us enjoying the World Series, how good it was last year. It was fun. I mean, it's really fun to watch, but it was really a game of relievers. Relievers just one after another pounding strikes and going full bore, and you think that you can do that all season long, and then you find out you can't. So the starters become less important, even though they're very important.
And a base hit on a 2-2 pitch.
Still believe the starting pitcher is the most important guy on your team once every 5 days.
Yeah.
The other 4 days you just put up with them.
They're just kind of hanging around
in the way, cheering, making faces, and dancing. That's about it.
Throwing sunflower seeds. It's part of the resume too.
Being a good teammate.
We were talking before the game. You really like Brian Anderson.
I do. I like his swing. I like just the way he stands in the box. He made 2 good plays in right field, and he's an infielder. I know he's had a few errors in the early going. I'm not sure that he knows where he's going to play defensively, but he's up among the league leaders as far as rookies are concerned with his 30 RBIs and hitting .297. We possibly could be looking, and a lot of time between now and then, but it was certainly a candidate, but we could possibly be looking at the National League Rookie of the Year.
He's hitting .357 in his last 21 games. 0-2. We sound like a broken record, but boy, you just love how Michaelis attacks the strike zone, and if you're a player behind him, you got to love it. You're always on your toes.
13 strikes, 3 pitches out of the zone. I think it was evident the way he pitched. Starlin Castro had him 0-2 and didn't waste any pitches, just got him out. You don't have to strike everybody out. You don't have to try to get everybody to chase. The idea is to get him out.
And it's 1-2. Very few wasted pitches, even on an 0-2 count, 1-2 count. He entices you to chase. And here's an example, the 1-2 pitch, and he hung it. And it's a base hit in front of Ozuna, stopping at second base Bour. He's been beaten twice on hanging breaking balls.
Well, there'll have to be a fix with that delivery. The Cardinals made a lot of mistakes here yesterday. Part of the reason the Marlins were able to get 17 hits A lot of pitches just hanging in the zone, and we have not seen that very much from Michaelis. Now, your point about Dan throwing strikes reminds me of Adam Wainwright telling us after a year where he sat out the whole year, watched every game, and at the end of the year he said, why are pitchers not throwing strikes?
Right.
And he was determined the next year to cut his walks in half, which he did.
And there's strike one to JT Riddle. So back-to-back 2-out hits with 2 strikes against Michaelis. And runners at first and second for the Marlins. Riddle at shortstop today. He's batting .237, couple of home runs, and has driven in 3. And again now 0-2.
Yeah. 5 out of 5 first pitch strikes for Michaelis. Vintage.
And let's see if he can't put him away. The 0-2 pitch to Riddle. It out of play. Thought the video tribute here at the ballpark for Red Schoendienst was put together so well. Emotional, the memories, those that you saw with Red throughout the years, incredible.
Staff here at Busch Stadium that did do an outstanding job. There were some things I hadn't seen in that video.
Me too.
But the way they were put together was very artistic. I would say very honoring.
That's the folks in the video department and the scoreboard room here at the ballpark trying to make it always an entertaining experience with Tony Semikaitis and Craig Wilson, Jared Hockup, so many others. The 0-2 pitch, and he got him. A strikeout, and there's that better breaking ball from Miles Michaelis. So the Marlins strand a pair, and the Cardinals coming up in the home half of the first. That means Matt Carpenter, Tommy Pham, and Jose Martinez happening in the books. No score. Right. 7 home runs, and he's driven in 21. Followed by Tommy Pham and Jose Martinez. Then Marcell Ozuna, Dexter Fowler, Jairo Munoz, Colton Wong, Francisco Pena, and Miles Michaelis. Trevor Richards gets the call today for Don Mattingly's club.
Made his big league debut this year in early April, and then had a game in late April where he had 10 strikeouts against the Dodgers in 4 2/3 innings. Has a good changeup. That's really his best pitch. And again, as we mentioned earlier, he's a guy that was pitching independent ball not that long ago.
He is from Aviston, Illinois. Pitched for Drury University. That's in Springfield, Missouri. Not drafted out of college. Independent ball. And a Marlins scout, David Espinosa, saw him while scouting other players on an opposing team. And that happens many times. As Carpenter lifts a fly ball into center field. Lewis Brenson, who had a pair of home runs last night, makes the catch for out number 1. Let's turn to Rick Horton's Toyota key to the game.
Yeah, Dan, I was thinking about as a key to the game today that, you know, we say a lot that you have to turn the page, and that's become almost trite and overused, but you do have to think of it as a new day, and it is a new day. The sun's shining, and that's the great thing about baseball is you start over. You know, you sprint for a while, then you go out back the next day, and all those sprints in summary become the marathon of a baseball season. So you really have to treat them separately, and you know, I do believe there's some mental gymnastics you have to do and emotional gymnastics to do that. Yesterday a heavy day and a bad day, but today a new day.
0-2 on Tommy Pham. Richards was matched up with Clayton Kershaw, and he struck out 10 in a start against the Dodgers. And you mentioned that earlier, but there's no betting in baseball. However, there are lines. It was the largest line against a team in over 10 years in Major League Baseball. Kershaw and the Dodgers against Richards. You never know in this game.
There's no betting in baseball.
That's right.
There's certainly betting around baseball.
That's right.
Is that what you were trying to say there, Danny?
That's right.
I think I've got you figured out. Finally.
You got it. 3-2 on Tommy Pham. Rick mentioned he's from about 45 minutes east of St. Louis. Matter Day in Breeze, Illinois. As Pham hits it out of play, I would imagine a lot of family and friends are here this afternoon. Which also makes me think about Jacob Turner, who pitched for a while with the Marlins, has bounced around in his big league career. Highly thought of prospect for a number of seasons. 3-2 pitch. And Pham muscles it out to left field for a base hit.
You know, I think one of the turning points recently for Tommy Pham is he is not afraid the last week or so to be jammed. He was jammed on the pitch before, doesn't really get the head out here either, but he's not way out in front. He's not swinging and missing. He's staying back. He's hitting the ball the other way at times. I think that's part of the comeback from the bad timing, is to allow the ball to get deeper in the zone. And again, there are times where you're going to get jammed. I've heard Mike Shannon say this for years. It was a saying years and years and years ago, is the good hitters are not afraid to be jammed.
Here's Jose Martinez. Pham in that at bat went from 0-2 to 3-2. Picked up the single, and it was a 7-pitch at bat, so you like to see that. Jose Martinez 5 for 7 in the series. Let's see if the Cardinals want to do a little running with Tommy Pham early on.
Backup catcher behind the plate, Brian Holiday. Maybe that adds to the desire, although when you stick around in baseball as a number 2 catcher, you normally know what you're doing behind the plate, and Holiday's certainly that. But the hit and run, I think, is a good option. Martinez hits the ball well on the ground the other way. There's room there anyway.
And the 0-1
right here. 1-1's a good hit and run count. 2-1.
Also, Martinez has grounded into 7 double plays, so that's another reason why you may want to start the runner. One ball, one strike on the Cardinals' first baseman. Home plate umpire Joe West, the crew chief. Chad Fairchild at first, Doug Eddings at second, Pat Hoiberg is down at third. Now you think about Pham running for sure.
Another hit and run count. 2-1.
Not going, and the pitch is driven out to deep left field. Dietrich back at the wall. Gone. No need to run. Trot around the bases. 2-run homer, Jose Martinez.
Martinez now 8 for his last 16. Home run number 6. And it is indeed a new day. There's your hit. And then all you've got to do is try. When you hit it 383 feet. No doubter.
And now Marcell Ozuna, the first Cardinal home run in the series. Number 6 on the year for Jose Martinez. He's now driven in 35. The man can hit. There's no question about that. And Ozuna sends one to Lewis Brinson. Backs up a few steps to make the catch. The Marlins defensively, Dietrich, Brinson, Anderson, that trio in the outfield. Around the horn presented by Dobbs. Rivera, Riddle, Castro, and Bohr on the infield, and Brian Holiday is behind the plate.
I think the outfielders have taken note early on in this game. As a afternoon game, a little warm today, the ball is carrying. And of course that was a home run that Martinez hit. That was a no doubter. That ball by Ozuna off balance just a little bit, but it still carried and sent Brinson back a little further than he thought. So outfielders beware. Play a little deeper perhaps today. Ball's going to carry.
Here's Dexter Fowler. He slaps that foul and out of play. 1 ball and 1 strike. Tough year, no doubt, for Dexter, hitting 180, 5 home runs, and he's driven in 20. He's trying to turn things around. He is 7 for his last 19. Much of that has been done from this side of the plate. Base hit out to left. Dexter Fowler. And 3 hits in the inning.
I like the top hand, the strength of the top hand on that swing to drive that ball the other way. When Dexter has been struggling this year, he's had a lot of flares to left, a lot of fly balls to left, because it's all been right hand and not enough left hand. And that left hand, obviously, in charge on that ball hit the other way. You've got to have a good balance from both right and left to hit the ball on the line. That's a good prognosis there for Mr. Fowler.
Now Jairo Munoz. And a swing and a miss. Interesting, after a night in which Munoz commits 3 errors, Mike Matheny goes right back with him. And that, I'm sure, is Mike's way of saying, we believe in you.
I thought the same thing when I saw him in the lineup. I mean, you could have gone with potentially with Greg Garcia, first day back after his absence with the paternity leave, but I do think that message is important to send to a young player.
And a strike. Nothing in 2 the count. Short lead at first by Dexter Fowler. Colton Wong on deck if Munoz can extend the inning. And a pitch in the dirt, blocked nicely by Holiday. Spoke to Don Mattingly in spring training, and he said, yes, we lost Stan Yelich, Ozuna, but this is enjoyable. I get a chance to teach at this level, and so many times players come up and for whatever reason maybe don't want to be taught. They're veterans, they've been around for a while, but these are young kids, and he loves, he said, and relishes this opportunity. He's going to have plenty of teaching because this is a young, inexperienced team that's been put together.
Well, they're looking for leadership. They're looking for direction. They know how to perform and compete at the minor league level, but they understand this is the best level. So how do you survive here? They know everybody can play. And one thing about a minor leaguer, Dan, they'll see guys that just tear it up at their level, come to the big leagues and fail. And then they see guys that they play with, they say, I can't believe that guy's hitting 290 in the big leagues. What happened? So they understand there's a bit of a secret sauce when you get to the big leagues in terms of preparation and perseverance and attitude, etc., that they want to know. So, and the tricks of the trade, that's where you start listening and learning.
The 2-2 pitch. And a strikeout of Munoz, first of the afternoon for Richards, but a home run hit by Jose Martinez, his 6th of the year. One swing and it's 2-0 Redbirds. Herzog, so many spring trainings spent wearing that Cardinal uniform, managing greats like Bob Gibson and so many others. And we mourn the loss, one of the all-time wonderful people in Cardinals history, Red Schoendienst. Jim Hayes is standing by with the president of baseball operations, John Mozeliak. Jimmy.
Yeah, Cardinal Nation remembering Red today, and John, I know you guys were very, very close.
Yeah, I mean, I was very lucky to have a long-time relationship with Red, and as you and I were talking about last night after the game, you know, he was such a special person, and you hear that a lot about people, but what made Red so unique is he made everybody feel welcomed. So if your son was up here, your son would leave with a smile. If your wife was up here, she'd leave with a smile. He just had a way of touching people in a positive way. And, you know, as I was like reflecting on it this morning, when I was talking to some people, the best thing I could say about Red is he'll never be forgotten. And there'll always be Red stories. There'll always be a time when you go, oh, you remember when Red did this or that? And, you know, that's a great legacy.
You know, baseball has changed in terms of the way you guys go about gathering information and the metrics and algorithms. Red was old school. I know he was very important in terms of what he had to say in regards to your organization. It was almost like his knowledge was timeless.
You know, like, you get that debate a lot between old school and new school, but what made Red so special was wisdom. He always had something that he could impart on you to help you make better decisions. And so, you know, for me, I never look at it quite in that black and white way of thinking about it, but having someone like Red around, I feel like always made all of us a stronger team.
Is there any way to separate Red and Cardinal baseball? Because it seems difficult to do that. They're so entwined.
Well, it's so entwined because he's been a part of this organization for almost as long, you know, almost half the existence of it. And so, you know, therefore, when you look at some of the great players that have come through, not all of them have stayed as connected as Red has with this team. And, you know, for someone that grew up not far from here, for someone that had his family grow up in this city, he embodied what St. Louis was all about, and he represented so many great things about this city and about himself.
Thank you for sharing your memories.
Thank you, Jim.
Danny?
All right, good stuff. And caught my attention when Mo said, you know what, he's been around for basically half the time the franchise has been here.
Caught mine too. So you think about the people, Dan, that we're connected with, the former players, current players, and everybody. The common tie was Red Shanding.
Yes. You knew it was spring when you got down to Jupiter or Al Lang and Red was walking around, or in the last, I'd say 5-10 years, driving around in a cart, hopping out on a backfield in full uniform, and had a few words for you. I like this player. I like that player. I'll never forget him talking about Tyler Lyons.
Right.
Tyler Lyons had not made it to the big leagues, and he said they need to look at this kid's curveball. He needs to be to the big leagues.
His curveball's different.
Yes, and
when I say his curveball
he was in
is
the big
different,
leagues that year,
and his curveball is different. When I say it, Dan, and I'm not saying it's been good this year, but when his curveball is good and it's different, that's a line essentially I got from Red.
One inning on Tuesday night and one here today. They've been playing catch up primarily the entire 3 days against Miami. It's 7, 8, and 9. Colton Wong, Francisco Pena, and the pitcher Miles Michaelis against Trevor Richards. And the first pitch taken for a ball. And the 1-0. 2 balls and no strikes on Wong. A 2-run homer by Jose Martinez. His 6th of the year, the difference thus far. 2-1. I spoke with our friend Dick Zitzman this morning, who essentially was the agent for Red Shandings for signings and appearances and whatnot. And Wong beats it out. And Dick obviously very emotional and has been answering a lot of phone calls, and he said one of the more interesting calls he got about Red in the last 24 hours was from a friend in Boston that ran into a cab driver, and the cab driver said he was very upset that Red had passed away, and he said, I've been doing this for 40 years. The nicest man that's ever been in my cab, Red Shandings.
How about that? That doesn't surprise me one bit.
that doesn't encompass red.
Yeah.
Nothing does. So an infield hit for Colton Wong.
Well, I think that goes along with what John Mozeliak told Jim Hayes last inning is no matter who he would meet here at the ballpark, he left an impression and that was positive, whether it was your kids or your wife or friends or whatever. Red was very gracious to everybody.
Here's Francisco Pena. Miles Michaelis at the on-deck circle. The Cardinals have hit and run with Pena at the plate 5 times already this year. That's most on the team. That ball gets away. Wong read it right off the bat. He could see it out of the hand that it was going to be in the dirt and got a great jump.
Well, there are times you even pick out what kind of pitch it's going to be. If it's going to be an off-speed pitch, curveball or changeup, you're thinking, well, maybe he's going to throw it down so he'll get the good secondary lead. And if it's in the dirt, take off. That's exactly what he did.
So he puts himself in scoring position. Here's a 1-1 pitch now to Pena. And he pulls it foul just past Jose Oquendo.
It's amazing how the advancing of a base changes an inning. Wild pitch, pass ball, balk, stolen base, however it may happen. It just changes strategy immediately. You're not thinking of hit and run anymore. Now Pena is thinking about getting Wong to third, but probably more than that with Michaelis on deck. It's not just giving up an out here in front of the pitcher. He's still going to try to drive it.
And he pulls it foul again. That gives you an indication of what he's trying to do. Many times, to your point, that swing, and again, it's pitch dictated on location,
right,
but you're trying to take that ball to right to advance the runner from second to third. But in this case, drive him in.
And we're teetering on my pet peeve, as you've heard me say many times, that a pitcher should never throw the ball away at this point to a batter. Well, pitchers can't do that. They have to go in and out. So he goes out, and you'd say, well, what's he doing pitching him away when he's trying to hit the ball the other way? Well, you have to. Otherwise, you're not really pitching. If you just throw every pitch inside, then. And so when you say you're pitching away from your defense, I think your defense has to go with the way you're pitching, first and foremost.
It's a ball and 2 strikes. Colton Wong, the runner at second base. Pena pulls it sharply to third. Rivera settles and throws. Correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things that stands out, at least initially, is that Richards, that curveball does not have a sharp bite. It's hanging.
It is.
And here's Miles Michaelis. He does have a little look of Will Ferrell and Anchorman.
I'm Ron Burgundy.
Yeah, sometimes you don't want to read the prompter.
I see a promo in our future.
Absolutely.
On Fox Sports Midwest. Miles reading that at a desk. Ballpark Village. Nice,
I like it.
Nice red suit.
He's a stylish dresser, as we've seen too.
Yes, he is. Well, most people think he's a big deal.
And a ground ball that's hit to short. And Michaelis, since his home run in his first start, is 0 for his last 21. Let's take a look at our GMC leaderboard. The highest winning percentage at Busch Stadium since 2014, the Marlins.
Isn't that stunning, Dan? 60% of the games here since 2014, the Marlins win. Only the Giants and the Marlins as a road team have a winning record in this ballpark, which is also stunning.
That's what stands out to me.
But the fact that the Marlins are #1, the Giants, that doesn't surprise me. There have been some pretty good teams in San Francisco since 2014.
And with 2 outs and a runner at third, here's Carpenter. And strike one. He flied to center first time up. On this date a year ago, Matt Carpenter was hitting .210. He came into this ball game at .224, so he's actually ahead of last year's pace, which may surprise some folks. Pulled the string, 0-2. And the 0-2 pitch. Carpenter pulls it foul. As he went with back-to-back changeups.
So against the style of Matt Carpenter, but if somewhere along the line it would just totally lock into him that he could hit ground balls hard to shortstop, he did .390.
Might hit .500.
Teams would have to, of course, change the way they defend him. I'm not talking about tapping the ball there. I'm talking about hitting it hard.
Sure. And the 0-2 lifted in the air out to left. Derek Dietrich near the line and makes the catch. Cardinals strand a runner, their second of the afternoon. 2-0 St. Louis. With a 1.95 ERA, and there's a look at the 0-2 count so far. 6 of 8 for Miles Mikolas. Newcomb is 7-1. Nola 7-2. Michael Wacha 7-1. Jacob deGrom 4-0. Have Gio Gonzalez, Lester 6-2. Mikolas 6-1. Those are some of the candidates to think about for the All-Star game. Dave Roberts, the National League manager, will select 9 players. 8 pitchers are elected via the player voting. 5 starters, 3 relievers. The fans get 8. The manager, you have the final vote online.
Really shared voting, and I think that's been a good thing. Another 0-2 count, by the way, not surprisingly, with the pitcher at the plate. Pounding the strike zone is Miles Mikolas.
And a swing and a miss. The strikeout of Richards, so 3 in the first 9. Take a look at our Kia drive to success at home this year. Miles Mikolas, remember the first time out was against Milwaukee, and he was okay, not great, but since then incredible.
And what strikes me is the 2 walks, 26 strikeouts. The ERA, of course, outstanding, 1.53, and of course here at home. And you know, it's not unusual for a starting pitcher to perform better at home. Happens a lot. But this is really Mikolas's new home. And we are very happy to have him at this home.
It's been terrific. 0-1 pitch now to Starlin Castro. And it's 0-2.
Again.
And that's taken outside. 1-2. Backing up at first base, Jose Martinez near the grass. It's bounced in the dirt. 2-2. You know, that pitch right there, it's odd to see it from Mikolas. Every pitch with a purpose.
Right.
Every one. Miles wanted to keep that last baseball that was in the dirt, and Joe West said, throw it out. And the 2-2. Spoiled by Castro.
There's the advance of Castro. You were talking about him early in his career as a young player, and he really was an out if you could get the curveball or breaking pitch where you wanted it away with 2 strikes, and that was a pretty good plan B swing from Castro. He still strikes out a fair amount. But he is having a good season. Close to 300.
This will be the first 3-ball count for Miles Michaelis, and he'll get a ground ball. Munoz. There's 2 away. Derek Dietrich, the batter. He's grounded out to second. And 0 for 1. So 2 outs and nobody on. I'm going to try to find out if the Cardinals will wear a patch on the sleeve to honor Red Schoendienst for the remainder of the season. This happened late afternoon, early evening. Red passing away yesterday, so it may have been too fast to get those patches on the sleeve. I'd be surprised if the Cardinals do not do something like that. They did that when Stan passed away, of course.
I'd love to see the number 2 out there all season long behind second base. I don't know if that is planned or not, but I thought that was a nice tribute.
We're told that the Cardinals are waiting word about wearing those patches, whatever they may be, for the upcoming road trip. Here's a 1-2 pitch, and it's spoiled. Uniforms in sports, and in particular baseball, this is sacred stuff. And so a lot of times, while it may make all the sense in the world to put a patch on a sleeve, a lot of times it needs to be cleared by Major League Baseball. And that could be the case, which I'm assuming would be the check mark and go ahead and do it.
Well, they have specifications about size. Of course, when a player wants to put a tribute somewhere for some reason, you know, that they have to be careful about it not being political. They don't want to have the wrong kind of sponsorship issue. So the MLB is certainly very strict on that, but I'm sure they'll do the right thing with number 2 on the Cardinal uniform.
Federico, the Hockey Hall of Famer, on the right, and our colleague at Fox Sports Midwest, his lovely wife Bernadette, on the left. Good old Canadian boy. He's probably melting down there.
Oh, but he loves being out here.
He's turned into a huge Cardinal fan over the years.
Yes.
And he is a St. Louisan through and through.
Well, and I actually absolutely love him. On our Blues broadcast, the pre-games and post-games, he is such a great fan of local sports and very knowledgeable and humble. He was a great player. I mean, a great player.
You know what they called us? So when I was doing Blues hockey, I was working on the radio side for a number of years, and then TV. And myself and Bernie, well, we were inseparable on the road. So we had the nickname the Sisters. They go, oh, there they go, the sisters again.
Huh.
Do you sisters want to go to dinner with us?
I didn't see that one coming. Sisters, you say?
Yeah.
Not, oh, they're the brothers.
No, we're the sisters. There's your sister. You want to go to the pregame skate? Well, you probably won't because your sister's not coming. You know.
I'm intrigued.
He's one of my best friends in the world. There's a drive out to right, backing up Anderson. Bernie was in my wedding.
I didn't know that.
Yep. One of my groomsmen. I made him stay out in the hall and sign autographs all day.
So that's why he was in the wedding. It was an appearance. 2-hour appearance. Want you to wear a tux and sign.
Wedding to the left, Bernie on the right for autographs.
You know, you got to pay for a wedding somehow.
Right.
You know, you just gave me a good idea. I'm going to hold that thought.
Bernie's done a ton for charity over the years too. He's accessible. You'll see him all over the city throughout the year. As Ozuna hits it sharply to Castro in a 5-pitch inning for Trevor Richards. The Hall of Famer Bernie Federko and his wife Bernadette here at the ballpark. One of the top courses in not just the United States but the world, and all eyes of the golf community on St. Louis. Miles Michaelis back to work with a 2-0 lead. 9 of 11 first pitch strikes thus far.
Danny, so many of my friends cannot wait for that event at Bellerive. They are so excited about certainly a great venue, but it's a big stage too. This is, if you're a fan of golf, this is a big deal happening here in St. Louis.
Justin Thomas, the reigning champ, was in town at Bellerive the other day and played around. Then came down to the ballpark and took BP. It was media day at Bellerive. Here's the 0-1 pitch to Justin Bour. My kids got an autograph.
Did they?
Yes, they did. They were excited. They're big golfers. They love golf. As Bour puts it on the ground, flips his bat, and Wong makes the play.
Miles Michaelis has been making a living at keeping the ball out of the center of the strike zone. That is up and in with movement, jamming Bour. You know, Bour gets his arms extended on a day where the ball is carrying. Who knows how far it could go. But Michaelis has had the ability, Dan, and we keep saying throwing strikes, but it's more than that. You can throw strikes right down the middle. That's called batting practice. They throw more than 70% strikes an hour and a half before the game too, but they're all hit hard. You still have to throw them to corners with movement, velocity. Michaelis has been an artist.
It's 8 in a row set down by Michaelis. I am not a big autograph guy. I don't get much out of it. It's fine. I like
if that's your way of asking yes, Dan, I'll sign for you.
I know you will.
Right there.
Thank you.
To Dan. Okay, go ahead.
I will get them for charities that I'm involved with. But I do have a picture of me interviewing Red Schoendienst, and he signed it. And I also have a picture of Red and Mike Shannon, myself playing golf, and he signed that too. And those are great memories. Those do mean a lot.
Yes.
Another ground ball. Jairo Munoz, 2 away.
Well, what brings it meaning is not just letters on a ball and a baseball itself. It's the value imputed into that based on your relationship with them. So, or the photo, whatever it might be. It's not a $5 photo. It's the fact that that was a moment you shared with Red, and it reflects your friendship with him.
Absolutely. He treated me so well when I first got to doing broadcasting over 20 years ago with the Cardinals. I was just a kid. And here's this Hall of Famer, this legendary figure. And he treated me exactly the same the last time I was with him too.
I had the joy of going to his 80th birthday celebration. I was at the Frontenac Hilton, and then I had the joy of going to his 90th birthday celebration that was at Mike Shannon's restaurant, and was hoping to go to his 100th.
Here's a 2-1 pitch. 2-2. He was, in my mind, and Stan, everything that we celebrate and enjoy about this franchise. Winning, great player, great citizen.
I think the citizen part is so important to the Cardinal baseball community. As the fans, want to celebrate winning, but they want to celebrate winning the right way. And Red's not somebody you were ever worried about a bad story coming out about Red. Nothing but positives.
When he was still dressing out and batting practice, a lot of times fans will be roped off behind home plate nearly every day, blistering sun, and it's, he's 85, 90 years old at the time, stopping, signing autographs, taking pictures, talking with people. Coming up here before going over to the radio booth and stopping in and just saying hello. Just the second 3-ball count for JT Riddle, and a swing and a miss. Strikeout number 4 for Miles Michaelis. 2-0 Cardinals. The Braves are tied with Washington atop the National League East. On a warm day here at the ballpark, got to get your Dippin' Dots. Looks pretty good.
Sure does.
Strike one on Dexter Fowler.
I'll be right back.
You fly, I'll buy.
Nice.
That's how it works. The changeup catches the corner, and it's 0-2. Fowler with a base hit to left field, first time up. And time is cold.
Padres and the Cubs will be in town next time the Cardinals are home. That's after the short series in Cincinnati. And there's still some good seats available.
Budweiser, what's on tap? The upcoming schedule: 3 with Cincinnati, and then San Diego and the Chicago Cubs. Before you know it, the All-Star break will be here. Here's a 1-2. And Fowler chased a pitch out of the zone, strikes out. Number 2 today for Richards. Rick, we were talking last night how it is the St. Louis Cardinals, but really it's a regional team.
Yes.
And weekends, be surprised, roughly about 65-70% of the tickets sold on weekends are for folks outside about a 60-mile radius of St. Louis. There are a lot of people that come in and make this a vacation destination.
I've thought that so many times over the years of having the privilege of being on the Cardinal broadcasts and telecasts, and some the times where I've forgotten that St. Louis Cardinal baseball is so big, and you make a St. Louis reference as if it's all about St. Louis, but it's not. It's a regional team in so many ways. And it's one of the reasons why the great addition of the way the field is handled and the rain days and how the field drains has become such a positive, because people do come a long way to watch the game. They come into the city, they get a hotel room, spend a weekend, and come watch a series during the summer with their family, and we're glad they do it. And it's we have the opportunity to host them, and again, there are times where I maybe forgotten just how wide this base is, and want to make sure everybody does feel welcome here.
And it's 3-1. It's one of the reasons why we do the Cardinals Caravan every year. One of the few teams that does that, going into 6-7 different states. Some cold winter months. A 3-1 pitch to Munoz, and a strike to make it 3-2.
If you want to know who Cardinal fans are, come along with us on one of those caravans. One stop after another, thousands of people, multiple stops throughout the Midwest, wanting just a glimpse of what's going on in the upcoming year in Cardinal baseball.
Really kicks off the season. The Caravan's the winter warm-up. fantasy camp, and then about 3-4 weeks after that it's spring training, and away you go.
Trevor
3-2 pitch.
Trevor Richards has settled a bit here, Dan.
He sure has, and he strikes out Munoz, back-to-back Ks, and his 3rd strikeout overall.
There's the changeup, and that's why he was able to strike out 10 LA Dodgers in that start we talked about in late April. That's really pretty a normal delivery. He's not overpowering, but he really sells that changeup well.
Here's Colton Wong. 2 outs and nobody on. Wong with an infield hit, first time up.
Colton a little bit different batting stance today than he had against the Pirates. The bat a slightly different angle. He's really resting it on his shoulders, and he was trying to get away from being too upright, so he flattened it out. Now he's a little bit in between. Sometimes you overcorrect to get it where it's comfortable. So now it's about halfway between where it was a month ago and where it was a week ago.
2-2. And Wong slaps it the other way. Brenson won't get there. Drops in for a hit. And Colton Wong is 2 for 2. It's the first Cardinal hit since Wong's infield hit in the 2nd.
A high changeup often ends up getting hit just like this. It's a shorter path from the bat, from where your stance is for the bat to the ball, and you're liable to get a little bloop. If that pitch is down, it's probably hit higher into the air and it's an out. So when a pitch is up and it's off speed, it's often trouble.
Here's Francisco Pena. Grounded out to 3rd, first time up.
Colton getting ready to go on a Carpenter tear and get that average back up.
First multi-hit game since May 6th for Colton Wong. Maybe so. Wong is running in a throw to second base. He's out. Marlins have allowed only 19 stolen bases, fewest in all of Major League Baseball. Making sure the Marlins will not challenge, and they will not. Cardinals no challenge. And the tag applied. 2-0. We're in the top of 5, and the Cardinals have a lead of 2-0. The medical team of the Cardinals was out looking at the fingers in the hand of Colton Wong as he went diving in. Here it is. He's kind of shaking out that right hand, taking a look at it now. He was diving into second base, but he stays in the game. Now, Red was also very smart. He told me a great story about acquiring Orlando Cepeda back in 1967. And at that point, Stan the Man was no longer affiliated, at least in a formal capacity, with the club. He was the GM of the '64 team, did it for 1 year, and Stan walked away, and he was working, I think, in the front office of the brewery. As Lewis Brinson is the batter here for Miami. They wanted to acquire Orlando Cepeda. They get with Bing Devine, the GM. They talk for a couple of hours, and Red says, I want to bring Stan into this conversation. He had been at the ballpark. And for 2 hours, Stan said nothing until the very end. And he said, finally, Stan, what do you think? Should we go get him? He said, absolutely, you should go get him. If they want him, go get him. So Bing says, all right, we'll try our best. Next morning, Red gets on the phone with Gussie Busch, which he never called Gussie. There's a fly ball in left. Gets the secretary who he knew. Gussie says, who is that? As Red explained it. He said, well, it's Red Schoendienst. All right, put him through. So he gets on the phone with Gussie Busch. He explains ad nauseum why they need him. And then Gussie finally at the end says, well, what does Stan say? And, well, Stan says, go get him. He says, why isn't he here? So Red knew how to pull the right strings.
Oh, yeah.
You bring Stan the man in, and you're going to get your guy. And that's how they got Orlando Cepeda.
You know, and that influence, what a team of influencers, really, when you think about both. When you think about Stan, you think about Red. When you think about Red, you think about Stan. So, you know, that swung both ways. I mean, Red certainly carried great influence as a manager and as a Hall of Fame player, but you know, Stan, iconic Stan Musial, but for them to just be kind of normal guys together, made them doubly respect worthy. And so if one of them said something, yep, we're in.
Sounds good to me.
Yep.
That's a smart move, though, by Red.
Well, of course.
Get the seal of approval, the final stamp by Stan by saying, yes, go get him. That was it. And they got him.
Well, you said Stan was not formally involved, but he was, as long as I can remember while he was alive, was involved and influential.
You bet.
And the same is true of Red. I think of certainly Whitey Herzog relying on Red, and I know a great loss for Whitey today. And think about the folks that really had great connection for long periods of time with Red. But you know, Tony La Russa wanting to find out every single day. He'd say, I'd go out in the outfield and I'd ask, I'd find out, Red, what do you see? And Red was a coach, but he wasn't formally a coach at some of those times, and didn't
More
dress
of an advisor.
out. And advisor didn't dress out for games towards the end of Tony's time here. And I think Mike Matheny felt the same way about Red. Just really absolutely respected Red's wisdom, and that's the word that John Mozeliak used, I think, quite well. He was speaking with Jim Hayes today. Wisdom.
A 3-2 pitch to Rivera. And a ground ball hit to the right side, charged by Wong. And that's out number 2, and that's 12 in a row for Michaelis. Donate blood with the Cardinals, Fox Sports Midwest, and the American Red Cross. To make an appointment to donate, use the blood donor app or visit redcrossblood.org. Enter sponsor code CARDS. I did a radio show, as you did this morning on KMOX. I did one with Bernie Miklasz of ESPN Radio here in St. Louis. And the one thing I told Bernie at the very end, I said, with all the guests that you have and the various guests that you'll have that'll come on from a national perspective or certainly here locally, everything that you hear is true about Red Schoendienst. Sometimes, you know, a person may pass away and there's a lot of nice things said, and it's in one ear and out the other. That's a rough way to put it, but everything you hear about Red, all of it is so true. Wonderful human being. What's he got going today?
You never know, do you?
Nope.
He's creative, there's no question. Stylish, creative. You know, Dan, we've had a number of tributes here over the last couple of days. I just got a nice text from the Hall of Famer Bruce Sutter. Sent me a nice photo of he and Red and Ozzie and Whitey Herzog, and Bruce's sentiments. Red was the best. Multiple exclamation points. We all miss him. May he rest in peace. And I know Bruce watches a lot, and very thankful for the opportunity that Red gave him and Whitey gave him here in St. Louis. And you know, the Hall of Famers, that's a unique bond too. Those guys are connected in a way that I don't understand. You know, very few people who've ever been around baseball understand that small fraternity of the elite players, but that's a sentiment coming from a fellow Hall of Famer, and we're glad Bruce passed that along.
And a ground ball hit to short off the bat of Pena. To the point that when they go to the Hall of Fame, only the Hall of Famers are invited into a special either a luncheon or a dinner, but it's only the Hall of Famers. That's it.
So for those men, Dan, they look around and they know who's missing.
Absolutely.
In a way that we know, but they know in their fraternity, and it's a smaller fraternity of living Hall of Famers. And as we mentioned, Red was the oldest living Hall of Famer.
By the way, I misspoke in the year about the general manager of '67. That was Stan, but they brought him in, and the seal of approval for Stan the Man. But you get the point. Red, a great player, and then really one of the best decades, if not the best decade for the Cardinals, was in the '60s. So many Hall of Fame players a part of the run of '64, '67, '68. As Michaelis is swinging a miss. Just let him play. The 2-2 pitch, and it's spoiled by Michaelis. I know many fans are curious about maybe something the Cardinals would do for the public, and we have not gotten word of that. If we do, we certainly will pass that along. The 2-2 pitch pulled the string and a strikeout, and that's 4 for Trevor Richards. Three infielders on the right side for Carpenter, who is fly to center and fly to left.
I want to give Richards some credit here in this game. It looked as if early on the Cardinals might knock him out quickly. A single, a home run, a single in that first inning. Ozuna hit the ball hard, and thought maybe this would be a short game for Richards, but he has been outstanding since then. Only 2 cold and long hits since the first, and looking for another 1-2-3 inning, and got it.
Shallow center, and the catch made. Since the home run by Martinez, the Cardinals are 3 for 16 against Richards, so he is settled in. Inning number 6 coming up.
Afternoon, he has been outstanding, allowing just 2 hits. A lot of 0-2 counts from Michaelis, pitching up in the zone with the fastball, getting swings and misses, and holding down a Marlins team that scored a ton of runs the last 2 days. There's his line. He's been our BJC difference maker. 5 innings, just 2 hits, as I mentioned. No walks, classic Michaelis, and 4 strikeouts.
And on the other end, Trevor Richards, who's at the plate, he is settled in. And a strike at the knees. If you noticed a couple of times on those 3-2 counts or 2 strike counts where Michaelis just, Ricky, he rears back, and then you see the max effort. He's got it in his back pocket.
Well, I've been wondering about this, and it's something that we'll just keep thinking about and talking about and trying to figure out. Another strikeout for Michaelis is the fact that we are dealing with so many injuries in baseball at the moment, and you just wonder whether max effort is the reason why. And We talked about Reds. You and I were talking before the game about Reds teams in '67 and '68, and you could pretty much pencil in Maxville at short, Javier at second, Shannon at third every single day for, I'm not saying they played every day, but just wonder how many days they all spent on the disabled list. And yet today's players are bigger, stronger, faster. We believe so much more knowledge about nutrition and weightlifting and strength training and diet and sleep, and yet every day we talk about the 12 guys who are on the disabled list.
You also think about too, when Red was playing, much fewer teams too, so the competition for spots on a roster, I mean, think about it, the pool of players that are there, there's only so many spots, and baseball has expanded so much. There's a fly ball out to right. Fowler over and drops it. It's off his glove. And Castro puts himself in scoring position. But the point being, if you got hurt, they played through it because someone was there to take your spot. And that'll be an error on Fowler, his fourth.
You know, there was a time in this game where St. Louis was the westernmost city in Major League Baseball. There was a time. And you think about, again, the smaller number of teams in the league. Here's the play down the line. Fowler got there, just couldn't hang on. I remember Red telling me a story. They used to travel for, I believe, up to 2 weeks. They'd go to the East Coast on train. I wish I could remember word for word the story Red told me one day. It was probably a 10-minute story about just asking him about life on the road when he played. And he talked about bringing.
And a fly ball into right. That'll be caught. It is.
Bringing about 5 suits, and you know they wore a suit and tie every day to the ballpark, and they're traveling by train, and so you'd bring your 5 suits and your and 5 ties and your iron, and you'd bring them on the train and you'd iron them, and then you'd wash them when you got to the next city, and you go to the, because you'd play multiple teams in New York at the time. Talking about when the Giants were in New York, the Yankees in New York, you've got Boston, you've got 4 or 5 cities to go to, so they would pack them all together instead of just flying out there for a couple of days. So just what it was like to travel in this game by train was a Red Shane Dienst vintage story that I had a chance to listen to one day. I just loved hearing about what baseball was like in his era.
Just the second runner in scoring position for the Marlins today after the error by Fowler. That's Castro at second. Marlins do not have a hit outside of the first inning. They had back-to-back singles, and that's been it. And Bohr reaches for it in left center. Pham can't get there. It drops in, and a run will score. Bohr to second base. And the Marlins get on the board, and the error proves costly.
Bohr was being shaded in right center also, and we're going to get a look at why this ball was able to drop off the bat of Bohr. It was in the air a long time. First the pitch, it's down and away.
Good pitch.
Not a bad pitch at all. Good curveball, good bite, and he puts it in play into left center field. Pham in right center field, playing him where he's supposed to play him, but just too long to go, and the ball didn't hang up long enough for him to track it down.
Well, the Cardinals feel the same way about Brian Anderson, just like you. They intentionally pass him to deal with JT Riddle. So the first walk issued by Michaelis, the intentional. It's a 4th unearned run in the last 2 games against St. Louis.
You know, Michaelis lost his last time out, and he only gave up 1 earned run in the loss to the Pirates. Cardinals did not back him with much run support. He could very easily be 7-0 at the time.
And the 1-1. Ground ball left side. Munoz backhands, throws to first and makes the play. So the Marlins strand a pair. They get on the board, and coming up, Tommy Pham, Jose Martinez, who has a 2-run homer, and Marcell Ozuna. We're in the bottom of the 6th, and it's 2-1 St. Louis.
Off day this afternoon for Yachty after catching back-to-back games. Just good to have him back, Dan. Not just on the field influence. You know, he's coaching right now. Not paid to coach. Paid to play, but I guess you could say part of that pay does go towards his mentoring of other catchers. And just, you know, when you're going to bounce something off, hey, what do you think about that pitch? Or what do you think about this? Nice to have somebody whose opinion you value as much as Yachty or Molina's to be able to chat with.
I think he manages someday.
If he wants to, he can.
The 2-1 pitch to Pham.
I think when you approach him with that job application and the job description, you leave out the part about you're going to have to deal with the media 20% of your day. He might pass on it.
And the 3-1 whacked up the middle, and a base hit for Tommy Pham, and he's 2 for 3. Take a look at our Nissan drive of the game. Jose Martinez back in the first in a 2-run homer.
We wanted a hit and run, and we got a little more than that.
And a quick visit here. They're going to get some activity rolling now in the bullpen of Miami. Nobody throwing for St. Louis. It's Brad Ziegler. He's starting to throw. Unique delivery that he possesses, and with all the hard throwers in the game today, sometimes a different look, it works. Saw that with Pat Neshek here in St. Louis.
Mentioned Richards probably has a ton of people from his hometown, his high school, his neighbors, family, friends here at the ballpark today because he grew up very close to Busch Stadium on the east side, and he has a lot to be proud of, and so do they, on how he's pitched today.
I would say the Marlins have to be thrilled with what they've gotten on a guy that is an independent ball. Day game after a night game can be so tough on players. But for whatever reason, Jose Martinez, in terms of average, has been outstanding, hitting .315. His quick turnarounds. Try to gear yourself back up, ready to play. Cardinals tried a stolen base attempt with Colton. He was thrown out. 6 games against Miami, 9 for 16 for Jose Martinez. Tommy Pham at first base, back-to-back multi-hit games, and 3 of his last 4, and that's drilled into left center field. Martinez continues to pound the pitching of the Marlins, and Pham will stop at third base.
This ball is stung by Martinez. This one a line drive, pitch up a little bit, full extension. And you love to see Tommy Pham run the bases. Tommy leads the club with 41 runs scored, 4th and in the National League.
And so that'll be it. Brad Ziegler will face Marcell Ozuna. Richards is done. Ovation and applause for him as he went back into the Miami dugout.
Really a nice job by him, and when he came out, it seemed as if everybody down to our left stood up. Almost everybody. And there was a crowd of 100+ that clearly decided to come to the ballpark today, sat behind the third base dugout and cheered him on, stood up, and sure, that's a nice feeling for him. Of course, he leaves the game trailing 2-1, but I think acquitted himself well.
So here's Marcell Ozuna. And ball one. Ziegler leads all relievers in baseball with 5 losses. That's one of the reasons why he is no longer closing games out. Or Chevy called to the pen. And the 1-0. 2 balls and no strikes. Runners at the corners, nobody out. The 2-0 pitch. 2-1. Ziegler is pitched with the A's, Diamondbacks, Red Sox. He was born in Pratt, Kansas, and then moved to Springfield, Illinois when he was 6 months old. And a base hit into left. 3-1 Cardinals. Ozuna with a single that drives in Pham.
Well, that's a nice run to pick up, and the Cardinals just keeping the line moving here in the bottom of the 6th inning. Ozuna out in front a little bit, but still got the bat head on it, the barrel on it, and drove it into left. And one thing about Ozuna, that's 30 RBIs for him. So his RBI pace still close to 100 in terms of pace. And he hasn't even been 100%.
There's Dexter Fowler. And Fowler grounds to Bourne. He'll step on the bag. So runners at second and third. The Marlins pen in this series coming into the game today, 8 2/3 and only 4 hits and 1 run. So that is part of the story here. Ziegler, he attended Odessa High School in Odessa, Missouri, and then went on to Missouri State. 2003 helped the Bears to the College World Series.
Saw Ziegler's numbers against left-handed batters. Colton Wong next, lefty ready. Probably his last batter.
They have one lefty in their pen, and that's Adam Conley. And he's up and throwing. So 1 out, infield in, second and third. Munoz is 0 for 2 with a pair of strikeouts. It's submarine style of Brad Ziegler.
I've enjoyed the pitchers over the years that throw like that. The one I think of first always is Dan Quisenberry, the great Kansas City Royal and St. Louis Cardinal. Played for the Cardinals for a couple years.
Here's a 1-1. And as you know, Ricky, a lot of times guys go to this motion, one, injury, but two, if they're pitching traditionally over the top 3/4, but they're not getting anybody out, they've got to find a way to try to get people out.
Always try something else. Exactly.
That's what he did in 2007. Changed his motion. And the 1-2 pitch to Jairo Munoz. Puts it in play. Shallow right center. But Brinson with the catch. And the runners stay put. Want to buy or sell tickets at the last minute? Get the StubHub app. You can grab 100% MLB verified tickets until the first pitch. Sell your extras to another fan. Get the StubHub app today. StubHub, official partner of the Cardinals.
I think they're going to walk Wong here with the right-hander Pena up next, and Ziegler's numbers against left-handers, and they are indeed. So he's now been on base 3 times, a couple of base hits, and now an intentional walk. And it's an important at bat for Francisco Pena. Game still in the balance here, 3-1, close enough where he can break it open.
That's the first walk Cardinals have received today. And now it's Pena with the bases loaded. And it drops in for a strike. So the bases are loaded. By the way, Joe West was yelling at Francisco Pena. He said, let's go. Part of the speed up process of an intentional walk, and Wong had some equipment he was making adjustments with, and he said, let's go. Here's the 0-1. You know, the umpires are being evaluated with every pitch, every game, and pace of play is something that's looked at very, very closely.
I actually think that's part of the umpire's job. You're directing traffic. You're kind of emceeing the event here. You're not the star, but you're keeping the pace going. You got to keep the show moving.
Here's a 1-1. Miles Michaelis is at the on deck circle. Sam Tuivailala has been throwing in the Cardinals pen.
That would be an interesting choice. 89 pitches for Michaelis, kind of a tweener. How many more innings he could go? Do you want the 1 inning, or do you want the bases loaded 2-out moment with a pinch hitter at the plate?
And we won't have to worry about it.
Nope.
Strikeout of Pena.
I'll stop worrying.
The intentional walk of Wong and a strikeout of Pena. Cardinals strand the bases loaded. Carpenter's got 2 gloves out there.
Well, he was having a hard time finding his first baseman's mitt for a moment, and he had to use the other one. Now he gets rid of the second glove, and that reminds me of another Red Shandy story. He played back in the day when you would actually leave your glove on the field. Can you imagine that? I mean, you're done playing shortstop, you just flip the glove like you're playing just in a neighborhood.
And the opposition would use that glove.
Yeah, or they'd let yours lay there.
Right.
I mean, seriously? That could not have been a good idea.
No. Money wasn't quite as prevalent in the game back then.
No.
Here's Lewis Brinson, followed by Rivera and Holiday. So Jerko will go into the spot that was occupied by Jose Martinez, 3rd in the lineup.
I'm sure some folks are thinking, oh no, Jose Martinez out of the lineup. He's homered, single, driven in 2, scored 1.
This is why. Michaelis to the bag.
Right on cue.
Yeah.
That's a nice play by Matt Carpenter. That's that tweener play. You're not sure whether it's yours or Colton Wong. I don't think Colton Wong throws him out. I think Brinson beats it out where Colton was playing him. So Matt had to make this play, had to make the feed, leading Michaelis, who just beats the speedy Brinson to the bag. but that's what you gain when you bring in Jerko, move Carpenter to first. The defense is better, and I would say when you bring Jerko into a game, you're not having any big, huge drop in offense either. He's got certainly the potential to do what Jose Martinez can do, so I don't think you lose much, if anything, on the offensive side, but you gain defensively. Makes sense to do that for the final 3 innings of a game you're up by 2.
You get a mound visit here, and I'm sure that's just to let Michaelis kind of collect himself after racing to the bag at first. He has been masterful again today with only 3 hits allowed and 1 run. And strike 1 on Rivera. Every 5th day, boy, I look forward to watching Miles Michaelis.
100%.
Oh, 2.
Sharp break, late break. Wow. Outside corner to about a foot outside, and Rivera can't hang back at all.
That pitch a ball, but Ricky, he's had 13 0-2 counts today. Be Luke Weaver, Matt Harvey tomorrow. Will come your way at 5:30 on Fox Sports Midwest. Late afternoon game on Saturday. Michael Wacha, Luis Castillo. There's a ground ball to Matt Carpenter. He'll take it himself. Carlos Martinez and Anthony DeSclafani will go on Sunday. Jordan Hicks had been up in case we got to Michaelis's spot, so he's been throwing. He's hot and ready to roll. Well, it sets up potentially to have Michaelis go 7, Hicks the 8th, and then after that you're talking about Bud Norris potentially. And the 1-0. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Michaelis has been around 70% strikes this season. He's closer to 75% here today.
And it's in the air to Ozuna. He'll make the catch. And a 10-pitch inning for Miles Michaelis. Time to stretch. Day baseball here at Busch. The Gateway Honda home run inning. Cardinals hit a home run. The Gateway Honda dealers donate $1,000 to the Make-A-Wish Foundation of Missouri. And with that, Don Mattingly will go to his bullpen. And Conley will face Garcia. Then pulled back once he was introduced officially. He's been burned. Conley now is your new pitcher, and the Cardinals will pull back Garcia and go with Bader, who's been very good against. Check that. It'll be Luke Voigt, who's been good against left-handed pitching. So there you go.
You wonder if there's any way to incorporate something different in there, and I thought they tried that 2 or 3 years ago, Dan. Maybe it just didn't work. The idea of not having kind of little song and dance here to start an inning. You're going to pinch hit a left-hander, so then you bring in then you start the inning, but then you go to the bullpen, you bring in, now you burned another guy. There's a kind of a 5-minute passage of time there where I don't know if you can get the managers to commit to what their decision would be just to speed that up or not, but certainly would be worth looking into.
And it's pop fouling out of play. Luke Voigt had a huge hit this homestand with the Cardinals coming back with the 5 runs in the bottom of the 9th against the Pirates. Voigt came off the bench. His first hit of the year was a single that scored 2 to left. And the 1-1 pitch to Luke Voigt. And the 1-2 pitch. Voit with a drive. Deep left field. It is gone off the bench. Pinch hit home run. Luke Voit, just a line shot out to left. $1,000 for the Make-A-Wish Foundation of Missouri, the Gateway Honda dealers.
I guess they taught him about the conga line. Welcome back, Luke. 2 pinch hits during the homestand. The first pinch hit home run that the Cardinals have had in 2018. Outstanding.
His second career pinch hit homer, and now it's Matt Carpenter. And Carpenter with a base hit into right. So the moves have paid off here, at least initially for the Cardinals. They burn Garcia, but they get Voit up, and he hits a home run.
We're going to have another pitcher. Connolly's last pitch. 95. Carpenter turning on it, beats the ship.
Ben Meyer, a right-hander, coming on to pitch for Miami. Miami Marlins.
29th round pick. He was the pitcher of the week in the PCL about 3 weeks ago, and he finds himself in the big leagues now. 25-year-old on a beautiful day in St. Louis, throwing his first major league pitch ever to Tommy Pham.
So runner at first and nobody out. Cardinals now with a 4-1 lead behind 10 hits. Richards, the starter, pitched into the 6th, gave up 3 runs on 7 hits, struck out 4. Brad Ziegler came into the game, gave up a base hit, that scored a run that was charged to Richards. Conley did not record an out, gave up 2 hits, including the home run by Voit, and now Meyer. Go back, Ricky, a couple years ago, the Cardinals were so good with 17 pinch hit home runs.
Right.
Last year with 5, and this year with their first from Luke Voit. But 17 a couple years ago.
Hazel Baker was in on that.
Ledmus Diaz.
Matt Adams.
Greg Garcia had a couple, I believe. One ball and 2 strikes on Tommy Pham. 2 hits today.
And one thing I meant to mention when Trevor Richards was in this game, Dan, he's the 19th overall prospect for the Marlins. But you look at their prospect list, 3 of the top 12 are players that the Marlins got from the Cardinals in exchange for Marcell Ozuna. So that's why you make a deal like that, to strengthen your prospect list.
An expensive deal for the Cardinals, no doubt.
Sandy Alcantara, the pitcher that we saw briefly at the big league level, is their number 2 prospect. Magneuris Sierra, who Cardinal fans remember, is number 6, and Zach Gallen, a minor league pitcher, is number 12.
And Pham hits it out to center field. The catch made by Brenson. And back to the bag at first goes Carpenter.
Also noticed in their notes that Scott Van Slyke had a nice day yesterday. He's still on their AAA team. We saw him a lot in spring training. Thought he might make this team.
He had a 2 home run day against the Cardinals, and one of those home runs a grand slam. Don Mattingly knows him well from his time with the Dodgers. Our crowd today, 41,297, 41297. First plate appearance for Jed Jerko. And the 1-0 pitch to Jed. Ground ball left side. Out at second, the turn, and not in time. If Rivera can stay on his feet, that's a double play.
One thing I like about what he did is after falling to his knees, he didn't compound the mistake by trying to make a ridiculous throw off balance. He got a better balance going forward, made a strong enough throw to make sure it won. So many split-second decisions you make in this game, Dan, that you cannot plan for. You say, well, why didn't he do that? Or what was he thinking? And the answer is, you're really asking me, how was he reacting? Because there wasn't time to think. It was a split-second reaction that comes from training that is just instinct. Now, you might be saying, I don't think his instinct was very good on that play, and you may be right. In this case, I think his instinct was good. Not a matter of thinking. He's probably thinking about it now.
Here's Marcell Ozuna. And the 1-0. Ozuna hits it down the left field line, but foul. Ball was sitting on a tee.
I can tell you're an ex-hitter, Dan, because you always recognize the hanging breaking pitches.
I do. That doesn't mean I would hit him, though.
You start
That's
to stand up.
problem.
Well, you stand up out of your chair. You get a little excited.
Well, sometimes you just see it out of the hand. And Ozuna drives this one into left center. Brenson tracks it down. What a play. Lewis Brenson in center field. The pinch hit home run by Luke Voigt. Miles Michaelis ERA now down to 2.27. 7 innings, only 3 hits allowed. The Cardinals have a 4-1 lead as we move to the 8th, and Jordan Hicks into the ball game for St. Louis in our Chevy call to the pen. So Michaelis 7 innings, 1 run, 3 hits, struck out 5, 1 walk. That was intentional. And a chance at another win to go to 7-1.
The drop in the ERA for Michaelis, of course, that assumes no one else pitching today, and there may be some other action of the pitchers ahead of him, but it drops him to 3rd in the National League in earned run average, or brings him up to 3rd. He was 7th coming into this game, so another strong outing for Michaelis. And we've seen a number of strong outings from Jordan Hicks. I still think the Cardinals would benefit from another pitcher late getting hot to join Hicks and Norris, and of course we hope that happens, but really liked what we've seen from Jordan Hicks.
And a strike from Hicks to J.B. Shuck. He's the pinch hitter in the 9th position in the lineup, and then we'll see Castro and Dietrich. Here's the 0-1 pitch. Both pitches have been 100 miles per hour.
And the second one scared everybody in the first row because it was going right at him.
And the 1-1 pitch by Jordan Hicks. 2-1.
They are alert.
I don't blame them. And the 2-1 to Hicks. Step, throw. Oh, and out.
Ouch and out.
Wow.
You know, Carpenter was searching for a first baseman's glove. I think at this point he would have preferred a catcher's mitt.
That's self-defense right there, making that play.
And that's good hustle out of the box. Shuck, one of the top base runners in terms of home to first in all of baseball, and Hicks had to throw it close to 100. I think Matt would prefer not to have another one of those.
What do you think? 95 to first base on that throw? 95
yeah,
plus?
Probably.
And a strike at 101 to Starlin Castro. Reached on an air back in the 6th.
Yeah, Dan, John Mabry likes to talk about one of the differences in the game today is than other years, and it's just gotten more so, is there's no secrets anymore. So the stuff of Jordan Hicks is well known throughout all Major League Baseball. So you just wonder what the conversation is like in the clubhouse for the Marlins who've not seen him before, thinking, what are we up against here?
Back-to-back sliders. That pitch to me is what's going to, as we go forward, separate him from even where he's at right now. The ability to throw a breaking pitch for a strike.
Well, he has said that was his strikeout pitch in the minor leagues as a starter. That was his go-to strikeout pitch. Picture him as a guy, fastball, 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 get 2 strikes, wipe out slider, kind of the kind of simple way to attack a hitter. That's how he did it. So he likes his slider, and it's a good one.
I asked John Mozeliak, I said, where is his future? You know, do you look at him being in this role, closer, maybe down the road starter? And he said, I liken him to his personality is an everyday player. So if he's got a chance to come to the ballpark and make a difference, we think that's a good thing.
That means reliever.
That means reliever.
And some people are geared that way. And there is personality in when as a development person in this game you make that decision, starter reliever. It's not best guys go here, second tier guys go here. That's not the decision tree. It's stuff, personality, makeup, all of that in a mix, and you just try to project. Let's see, where do I see him? He reminds me of.
The 2-1 pitch. 101 with some sink. The 3-1 pitch. And a 2-out walk. The Phillips 66 ticket vouchers, they're back and they're better than ever. Fill up at Phillips 66, 8 gallons or more, and you can get a voucher for up to 50% off. Up to 8 tickets to a Cardinals home game. For more information, visit cardinals.com/Phillips66.
Well, you have to finish your pitch, you have to finish the batter, you have to finish the inning. Good start for Hicks, but the challenge ahead is a power hitter that could change the game with one swing.
This would be that guy, Justin Bour. First 13 appearances, it was 13 walks for Hicks. His last 15 appearances, just 6. You'd like to see that from a reliever, no doubt. As Bour puts it in play, tough chance, and really no chance for Jerko. And with that, the tying run comes to the plate. A walk, an infield hit, and Brian Anderson.
Well, there really isn't much of a margin for error. There's such a fine line between a good appearance and a bad appearance. And Jordan Hicks's ground out, strikeout, just seems like it's over. Then the walk changes it. Little dribbler, and you know, of course he's pitched well here, but you have to keep pitching well because in one swing your appearance can change.
So 2 outs and 2 on. A strike to Anderson. Teams are just 4 for 38 with runners in scoring position against the Cardinals right-hander. And it's 0-2.
Finish the pitch. Finish the batter. Finish the inning.
Here's the 0-2. Check swing, and he did go. It's a strikeout of Anderson. And 2 strikeouts in the inning for Jordan Hicks. And it stays a 4-1 Cardinals lead. Plays of the game. The pitching of Miles Michaelis. 7 strong innings again from the right-hander. And the Cardinals offense, that was early. Jose Martinez. And then late off the bench, Luke Voigt and a solo home run. The Budweiser plays of the game. It's 4-1 Cardinals.
You know, that 4 is such a big number, Dan. That last run, that last home run by Voigt. You know, the great George Kissel used to say you score 4 runs, you win in this game. And if you look statistically over the history of this game, that's a fact. When you talk about the average runs per game that you score and allow, if you score 4, you will win a lot of games over the long run. It's almost a magical number. And so it's a magical number on the other side to keep the team below that.
A lot of wisdom from Mr. Kissel, huh?
When he would teach minor league managers, he would draw 3.5 in the dirt with his fungo. He would just draw 3.5, and the young coach would say, well, what is that? And he'd say, that's how many, you have to score more runs than that, and you have to give up less runs than that. And you have to manage to that number. So if you have to manufacture to get your 4th run, do it. You have to use a pinch hitter to get that 4th run
to 4.
You do it. Get to 4. And use your bullpen so you don't allow them to get to 4.
This is Tyron Guerrero, the right-hander for Miami. 5th pitcher used today by Don Mattingly.
Now, you and I were drawing a little number 11 yesterday and saying if you give up 11, you're not
probably not going to win
very many of them.
Right. 11 is not a good one.
That's a corollary from the great Kissel.
There you go.
Teaching.
The 2-2 pitch to Dexter Fowler. And a strikeout. Fowler on the day, 1 for 4. And it brings in Munoz, who is 0 for 3. I'd be curious, this day and age of baseball, if you can stay under a certain amount of strikeouts because they're so prevalent in the game. How many of those teams win? If you get to a certain amount of hits,
yeah,
you know, what are those magical numbers too? But in particular the strikeouts, because that means then there's activity, ball in play, things can happen.
We've been intrigued by that because of the play of the Pirates and the Braves, who are both playing better than we thought they would this season, and they are striking out the least in the National League, so it's certainly helping them. And I don't know if you can make a direct correlation or not, but it would be interesting to look at that over time.
Now the Royals have struck out the least amount of times this year. And Kansas City is 20 games below 500.
Well, there goes that theory.
Yeah.
We'll have to go back to the drawing board.
I would think, though, in general, if you put the ball in play and put a premium on that and say it's important to us.
You mean just do what Stan Musial and Albert Pujols did?
Just ching, 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 ching. Except these were boom, 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 boom.
Right. Put the ball in play over the fence and you'll be fine.
Yeah. 2-1 the count. And Colton Wong saw that go to the backstop, and now he takes about 15 steps towards the dugout. he's at the on-deck circle. The Cardinals this year, when striking out 10 or more times, they're 6-14. The 2-1 pitch.
I think that's a glaring number.
And when they're under 10 strikeouts, 26-13.
That last pitch, by the way, 100 miles an hour. So both of our pitchers in this game at the moment throwing 100.
And that's why when you think about Hicks and his slider, it becomes so important. Guys can hit 100. I mean, they adjust. They'll hit 105. But if you have that secondary pitch that is a wipeout slider and can throw it for strikes, you know, part of hitting 100 is gearing up early too, right? And starting the swing. All of a sudden it's 88 with movement going away from a right-handed batter. That's pretty tough. 3-2 pitch. Fouled back. These guys come into the game, they're tall, they're lanky, and they just sling it. The ball just explodes out of their hands.
And who does that make you think of? Sandy Alcantara.
Yeah, for sure.
Who we mentioned earlier, one of the top, actually prospect number 2 now for the Marlins. He'll be up here this year before it's over.
Munoz hits it down the right field line and out of play.
You and I were questioning whether or not he is best suited to be a reliever or a starter. Well, I think the Marlins think starter right now, and that's what they have him doing in AAA. You know, I saw him as a reliever. But again, personality goes into that. I can't say that I know Alcantara well enough to make that judgment myself, and rely on the guys that do know him that believe that starting is his best.
And the 3-2 put on the ground. Munoz, he'll beat it out. That's an infield hit.
Well, when they're throwing 100, you're just happy to make contact, aren't you? And you make contact, and this is what you were talking about. You put the ball in play, and good things happen. Force somebody to make a play. And in that case, it just dribbled in an area where no one could.
And here's Wong. He's been on base 3 times. Infield hit. A bloop to shallow center. Was caught stealing back in the 4th. An intentional pass in the 6th. Also a magical number, if you will, play along here for a hitter is 200. Get above 200. Wong with a couple of hits today, now at 194. Just seems like the pressure is off a little bit more. Get above 200 and things can happen.
You know, that's been known for a long time as the Mendoza line among players. I think his career average was right around 200. I think that was Mario Mendoza. I'm not sure which Mendoza that was. There was been a couple that played, but I believe it was him. And it does put a lot of pressure on you when you look up and see 180, 170, 190. No question about that.
And Wong fooled by the pitch. 1-2.
Pitcher wants to get his ERA under 4, and that's something that just magically makes you feel a little bit more capable, competent, confident.
And a grounder that's hit softly to short out there. No throw by Castro. And the batter will be Pena.
You know, Dan, it seems as if this has been the Cardinals' game right out of the gate, but there have been some moments in this game where it could have turned. And I think the Voit home run was a positive moment where it turned in a good way. I think the strikeout of Brian Anderson with 2 runners aboard in the top of the 8th was big. And there were 2 runners aboard in the 6th inning, and Michaelis was able to retire JT Riddle as well. And that was a play that, as it unfolded, looked like it might have been booted too. It could have been booted. It was not an easy play and was handled on the backhand by the shortstop Munoz. A day after 3 errors, he makes a play that ends up being a big play in this game.
Here's an 0-1 pitch to Francisco Pena. But when you get good starting pitching, that's at 101. It just has a different feel. You know, Michaelis goes out and you feel, you know, we're going to dominate this game behind this guy. And for the most part, he did dominate. And the 1-1 pitch to Pena. Off the end of the bat, slowly hit to Castro. He'll go to first for the out. But Norris will come on. It's 4-1 Cardinals. Cardinals are score St. Louis 4, Miami 1. This is our Chevy call to the pen. He's had 1 blown save opportunity and then was off the hook. That was the game that Jairo Munoz hit the walk-off homer against the Pirates.
Been really tough on left-handed batters, but he's been extremely consistent. And Bud Norris has really evolved into this position. This was not handed to him. At one point, we thought the closer would be Dominic Leone, who I had a chance to run into today. Had a nice chat with him, and certainly Cardinals miss him not being available, and you hope for a good recovery from him. But also Luke Gregerson and just a lot of other choices, but including Greg Holland. But Bud Norris has emerged, and he has been pounding the strike zone. His fastball's been good, Dan, out of the bullpen, 95, and he's found ways to put guys away. I like the fastball away late in counts. He's just been hitting that outside corner.
Here's the 0-1. Like that.
That's the pitch, and there's not much you can do with that. It's got a little sink to it, and it's hard enough, and really not much you can do.
1 ball, 1 strike. Justin Bourne today is 3 for 4. This is Riddle at the plate. The rest of the Marlins lineup has gone 1 for 25. 1 ball, 2 strikes on Riddle. He has struck out twice.
But this is a lineup, essentially not the same lineup, but mostly the same lineup that had 11 runs on 17 hits yesterday.
1 point, Miles Michaelis had 14 in a row that he set down. Here's a 1-2 pitch. 2-2. Swing and a miss. He struck him out. And Norris gets the first out here in the top of the 9th.
It was a cutter that was up, not really the intended location. Left-handers tend to like the ball down. May have gotten away with one there.
It's now 8 strikeouts in the lineup for the Marlins. Lewis Brinson at the plate, 0 for 3. Grounded to first a couple of times and also flied out to left, 0 for 3. Here's a 1-0. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Boy, a lot of ups and downs, Dan, on this homestand. Whew. And it would be nice to finish on a good note and head off to the Queen City.
Bud Norris with that strikeout now has 38 in 26 2/3. And the 1-1. 1 ball and 2 strikes. You like that fastball that he dots on the outside corner. I love that slider.
Well, I like both. And you've got to have both. That's a short slider, maybe more like a cutter. Later the movement, sharper the movement, tougher to hit.
And the 1-2 pitch by Norris. Line down the right field line, tailing and foul into the seats. But Norris now in his 27th game. He's given up 22 hits, 10 runs. 9 of the 10 have been earned.
You know, being around Bud this year, he seems a lot younger than he is. I mean, he's been around this game for a while.
Yeah.
But it seems like he could be around for a while longer. Seems like he's in good shape, thinks young, acts young. Talk about him being a good teammate. We talked about how good the signing was of Miles Mikolas. We should also give credit to the Cardinals and John Mozeliak and his crew for saying, look, I think Bud Norris is a guy worth taking a shot at. 10-year veteran, 33 years old.
And remember, at the time, they initially began him as a starter in spring training.
And he said he wanted to start.
That's chopped foul. Well, the Cardinals are 2 outs away from winning this ball game. If they hold on, they keep intact a string of many years, all the way back in 1998, the last time the Marlins came to St. Louis and swept a 3-game series.
Not a lot of arguments with Joe West today.
Here's a 1-2 pitch. And a fly ball lifted out to left. Ozuna back near the wall and with room.
Just in enough. The pitch from Norris, it's in, and if it wasn't at that spot, if it was over the plate, I'm saying, Dan, 1.5 inches max. That might have been another Brinson home run. That's the importance of location.
He had 2 in the ball game last night. Cardinals trying to go to 33 and 27 if they can hold on. This is Miguel Rojas to pinch hit for Yadiel Rivera. And the first pitch hit out of play. Last season he had 4 home runs. This year already 7. Cardinals trying to make a winner out of Miles Mikolas and see him go to 7-1. The 0-1 pitch. Ground ball off of Norris to third. There's still a play, and they got him. Norris, Jerko, Carpenter, and the Cardinals have a win. 4-1 the final.
Plenty of positives here this afternoon. Miles Mikolas outstanding. Norris picks up another save. And with all of what's gone on this homestand, we're just reminded this one's for red.